Today, in this match, Mattia Bellucci stood absolutely no chance against Carlos Alcaraz. It was a joke. It was a practice session for Carlos Alcaraz. It didn't even look like that guy belonged in the same stratosphere, in the same tournament, in the same level of tennis as Carlos did. I mean, it was like Carlos was on a completely different level than Mattia Bellucci because he is 6'1", 6'love, 6'3", absolute domination by Carlos. It wasn't even close at all. Carlos did not face a single break point from Bellucci. Not a single one. So not only was he winning, these games weren't even close. There's only a few games that went to deuce. I only think 2 or 3 games on Carlos' serve even went to deuce. Maybe just one, like that last game or like close to last game when Carlos was serving. I mean, it was clinical what he was doing to Bellucci. Credit to Bellucci, he came out and he made it to the second round of the U.S. Open. Young guy, a little bit older than Carlos, but young guy, and he's going to pocket, like we said, 154K. It's very important for these players to play in these slams and get somewhat far because they are going to have a very good payday from it and some ranking points as well. So hopefully this will do great things for his career. But the focus obviously is on Carlos, and Carlos looked a lot better in this match, I believe, against than he did against Opelka. Now, Opelka's a much different opponent, 7 feet tall, big serve, but not a great mover, not great side to sideline, but he can hurt you just with his serve and his sheer power. It is probably the trickiest first match that Carlos could have. And I saw one commentator say this is the equivalent of Carlos eating his vegetables. Eating his vegetables. It don't taste good, but it's something that you have to do. You have to play against a player like Opelka. You have to play in these very uncomfortable matchups. And I guess in a weird way, he got rewarded by playing Bellucci, a player that's much smaller than even Alcaraz is. And, you know, even though his serve's probably his biggest weapon, has a much weaker service, much weaker power-wise overall. He's more athletic than Opelka, but nobody's going bend for bend with Carlos when it comes to sheer athleticism and movement. And that's what he did. Carlos, I mean, served very well, like I mentioned earlier. 86% win percentage on first serves. Got 60% of his first serves in. When he got a first serve in, it was goodbye, and there was nothing he could do. I think there was some crazy stat about the amount of times that Carlos has held serve. So right now, he is playing exceptionally since losing at Wimbledon. It's like a different gear switch for him, and now he's focused, he's locked in, and he was clinical in this match. And this is what I wanted to see from Carlos so bad, because in both the French and in Wimbledon, and even Australia a little bit, it seems like Carlos always has a game or a match early in a tournament where he just lets the wheels fall off. He had a 5-setter in his very first match at Wimbledon. He had multiple, 4 or 5 setters at the Roland Garros against players he's significantly better than, which is like, Carlos, what are you doing? Like, it's like you just lost focus. You're beating yourself. Nobody, except for Jannik Sinner at 100%, can beat you in tennis right now. If anybody else beats you, with the exception of maybe a Djokovic or someone like that, if somebody else beats you, you beat yourself. They didn't beat you, you beat yourself. And he is not allowing himself to beat himself. His power is insane. He did many things today that made me go, he hit a forehand winner that was 109 miles per hour. And I was like, how did he do that? How did he twirl it that way? How did he get it to the way he is? I mean, his athleticism, his mechanics. I read once where somebody said that almost every player in tennis hits a backhand with a bent arm. So they kind of bend their arm and bend their elbow. But if you hit it straight with a straight arm, straight elbow, no movement like that, you can get significantly more power. It's just that most players aren't able to do that unless you're insanely talented, like a Carlos, like a Federer, like a Nadal. Novak probably could do it because of the talent, but he never really did. You know, if you're one of those players, maybe you could do it, and it helps you generate just a little bit more power. And that's why part of the reason why his backhand seems so powerful. You know, his forehand through the grip, whenever he goes, and hits a forehand, it hits different. It sounds different off of the racket than many other players, almost every other player in tennis right now. And he is just cruising through everybody right now. Nobody is on his level from all calibers, from all assets. He is just leaps and bounds at a top level ahead of everyone else except for Jannik Sinner right now. Yeah, nothing else much to say there. We don't know who Carlos is playing next. I think he'll play again on Thursday night on Ash. It'll probably be, obviously it'll be on Ash again. He'll play Thursday night against, I don't know if we know yet who he's going to play next. Darderi. Yeah. Luciano Darderi, another Italian player. Ooh, okay. Darderi is 32, or at least seeded 32 in this tournament. I don't know much about him. Should obviously be an easy win for Carlos. These are honestly basically practice sessions, but I think Darderi is probably had a run at like the at a previous slam. Let me see what his previous slams records looked like. So he played in Cincinnati, lost the very first match in Cincinnati, pulled out of Canada, played at Wimbledon, got to the third round at Wimbledon. Okay, not bad. Did he play at the French? He did play at the French, and he lost the very first round against Sebastian Corda. Played at the Italian, lost to Jack Draper, who obviously we know pulled out. So he has a little bit of a run, walked over against Tiafoe in Madrid. Plays a lot of the small tournaments. Looks like he's still playing 125s, like challengers and stuff, not just the big tournaments, even though he qualifies for all the big tournaments. Like he did play in Australia earlier this year, and he walked over in the first round. So it's multiple walkovers, retirements this year alone, but it looks like he plays in both the smaller tournaments, the 125s, and against some of the big players at the 1000s and the slams as well. So he has a little bit of reputation. He's done a couple of things, but looks like he hasn't beaten anybody of note that you would think would be any sort of a threat, like, oh, what did Carlos do there? This isn't a Botic van de Zandschulp, equivalency that we saw last year, where Carlos was completely out of it, especially after losing the Olympics, where in Cincinnati, he was really bad. In the U.S. Open as well, he was really bad. But now Carlos looks fully unlocked, fully focused, concentrated, and looks like he is gunning for that trophy, get his sixth slam, and really position himself once again as the number one player in the world. If he wins the U.S. Open, he will take the number one spot away from Jannik, and that'll be very entertaining. So well done to Carlos. Can't wait to see what you do next. And you are just so much better than almost everybody else right now. And the only person who can stop you is a certain Italian man. Hopefully we get that final once again.